Commission May 4th to 6, and it's about 2:32. We also have had advertised a public hearing for this to be held before the regular meeting starts. I understand there's some change, and I'm going to have to ask Mr. Pearson to tell us what happened. I think a lot of these people are here for that public hearing. I think.
I'm not sure what the change is, or
Well,
what's the question?
well, we understood that the public hearing is number 0605 for Michael Smelzer. He wants a business use variance for 315 East State Street, and we understand that it was sold to someone else, and so the other person is not requesting. She's the one who told me that.
I had no request of Mr. Smeltzer to have this canceled.
You didn't?
No.
Okay.
He did call my office early in the week and said that he may consider canceling out to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals next Tuesday.
I may have misunderstood when I was talking to you.
Yeah. Now, it may be that that property has already sold. You know, I'm not sure. I've heard that that could be a possibility. But be very honest with you, I think this is an issue that probably should go ahead and be discussed.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, we had
Because-
planned that even if it had been
Right.
changed, since the people were here, and we could do that. All right.
Yeah,
That's-
this was one where, I mean, we've gone to extraordinary measures to notify everybody in the neighborhood. 120 letters went out, neighborhood associations were notified, legal ad in the paper, and I think it's a larger issue, to be honest with you, than just Mr. Smeltzer's proposal. So it really has to do with that East State Street corridor from the flower shop out to the bypass. So
Okay.
I think it is an important issue to discuss.
Well, we had agreed that we should go ahead and take input on it, but this was the information. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll go ahead first with the public hearing, which has been advertised in the Messenger, and letters have been sent out. And this is a public hearing which concerns 315 East State Street. And the person is requesting permission to convert the structure to a business office use, and it is in an R1 single-family zone. And I understand there are a number of people here who wish to speak to that issue, so we're going to go ahead and let you speak to it. And
And this type, just wanted to point out, this type of a request is one the planning commission gets involved in, not to grant it, but to only make a recommendation to the zoning board as to what our feelings are about it. But without input from citizens, we were reluctant at our previous meeting to make any recommendations to the zoning board, and that's why we had the code office send the letter out, and why we're here today.
we have a couple of other jobs too.
Oh, yeah, well, there's a couple other cases.
Okay, so this part is, we're calling this the public hearing section of.
That been around, Steve?
Have people marked on there if they wish to speak? Or just raise your hands, some people?
Well, who's first on the list?
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to ask a question.
Sure, we have to go up.
From the map, we can't tell, is it 315 only? In other words, about a 50-foot lot or 75-foot lot? What's the on the drawing, it looks as if
I don't have a
Original case file.
No. The request was only for 315 East State Street, just that one lot.
Okay. All right. See, it's just that one right there, and it's surrounded by. Okay, I don't have the list back, so I don't know who signed it first and said they wanted to speak.
And this is for the public
The
hearing,
public hearing.
not the other cases.
Not the other cases. Anybody here wishes to speak for or against the proposal to change 315 to a business use? Okay, you want to come up here and give your name and address? We'll go back to this list when he gets finished.
My name is Bruce Steiner. I'm a resident of 14 North May Avenue. And during all the 45 years that I've lived in Athens, I've lived either on South May or later at two different addresses on North May Avenue. Now, I'm here to speak against recommending the particular proposal to the board in question. The area in question is zoned, of course, R1. Now, it is true it isn't populated exclusively by single families in single houses. There are a certain number of houses there that are used as student rentals. But as an owner of student rental property, I'm well aware of the fact that it's becoming increasingly difficult to rent student rentals that are a considerable distance from the main campus and the downtown area, unless there are these huge new developments on the fringes. And it seems to me that the neighborhood as it stands, if there's to be any change, is more likely in the course of events to see a certain number of houses presently occupied by students turned back into single-family dwellings for just these reasons. It is a very attractive residential area. It's much favored by people who want to live within walking distance to and from the university. On that particular side of the street, it is a kind of frontier, threatened frontier. You do have these particular houses all along that side of South May Avenue. I see no reason to introduce a variance and then have that variance used as an argument for giving additional variances in the area until the character of that particular R1 area is totally altered. Now, this is my basic position, but I would also add this. Those of us who live in that area have not had very good experiences with the granting of variances. Immediately across from 315 is what was originally, in a more innocent era in Athens, a neighborhood filling station, just like the neighborhood grocery stores that have now vanished. And it's my understanding that the variances there have never permitted anything more but a filling station and the incidental repair of cars that would go with that filling station. And in fact, it's been transformed into a full car repair development with dozens of vehicles on the property, many of which are left there month after month, often sprawling over the sidewalk. You know, the city grants a variance, but the city apparently isn't interested in enforcing. But again, this is just a secondary reason. The main reason, as I say, would be the entering wedge for the continual granting of variances, which would end in the total transformation of a very attractive R1 area. Thank you.
Thank you. When I didn't get this at first, so Patrick Doherty, is that it?
That's me. I'm actually here for the other.
Oh, okay, because you had a check mark by your name. All right, I'll put a mark that you didn't do it. Then I have three initials. What does that say?
That's what I'm saying.
What does that say? Looks like a C. The last one looks like an R. Somebody signed it.
Who signed before?
Where'd it go?
Bud Werner.
Bud Werner.
Okay. Who signed after you?
Is CR somebody. Some initials. They look like, it looks like CHR.
We'll just skip it.
We'll skip that person. Okay, it looks like, is it Walder? That doesn't say Watkins, it says Walder.
We're here for not this.
Are you one of you the CR somebody?
I may be, yeah.
Okay. These are the mystery
He may
people.
be CL.
The mystery guests here. Okay, I'm putting a mark by your name
Okay.
too. Sorry, but you
That's
know,
okay.
it looks like Walder, I'm
Ed
sorry.
Baum wants to talk.
Ed Baum.
Edward Baum, 20 Sunnyside Drive. I just want to associate myself with the remarks of Dr. Steiner. A decade and a half or so ago, that area was an R2, and through the actions of primarily the citizens of the area and the administration, it was changed to an R1. R1s in Athens are rather precious entities, and I remember a discussion several years ago when the Planning Commission on another issue was thinking about getting rid of V1s and having them eventually move into an R area. But to take any R1 and to transform it through a variance into a business zone, I think degrades the area and is not good for the city. And so I just want to associate myself with anything that's necessary to recommend a negative, make a negative recommendation to the zoning board.
Thank you. Did anybody else who not marked their name wish to speak to this issue?
I didn't mark, but I can
Well,
speak if I may.
Yeah, just come up and introduce yourself. This one too.
My name is Phil Campbell. I live at 1 North Shannon, and I'd like to agree with the previous speakers. When my family moved to Athens about 10 years ago, one of the things we specifically sought was a neighborhood in which families lived and our kids could live and grow up, and they have, and in which we could walk. And I think if State Street becomes a business strip mall along that residential corridor, it will unalterably make the neighborhood from one where you primarily walk to things to one in which you primarily drive to things, because all your neighbors are businesses, and I think it's neighborhoods like ours are one of the things that makes Athens a wonderful place to live. Thank you.
Did anybody else wish to speak to this?
I'm just gonna say that I think this whole road, all of us agree with what the previous speakers said. That's the reason we're here. So if you wanna count numbers, count us all down.
Yeah, I knew that. I could tell. I recognized you all.
You just suspected. didn't
I
you?
suspected that that's what you were going to
You
say.
want addresses, we could
I was a mind reader. I knew what you wanted.
I'm Randy Morris. I live at 25 South Main, and I just want to know where they're going to park if they work there, because there's no parking on State Street, and there's one little tiny garage with room for one car at that address, and that means they're going to park on South May, and South May doesn't really want or need business parking on the street, so I would add my vote against granting the variance.
Okay, thank you. We also have a letter here as part of the official record from, it's from Martha Sloan, and she could not come because she's teaches at West Elementary School, and they live on the property at 12 North May, and she's opposed to the request, very similar to what is everyone else has said here and what Dr. Steiner said. And she feels it would have an adverse impact on an already congested area at May Avenue and East State Street. So this is a part of the record too that will. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to say on this issue?
Nobody for. Nobody for.
If they wanted to say it, they would leap up if they were for it, but they're all opposed to it. Okay. That's the end of the public. Are we in take this up after the meeting? Okay. Now, that's the end of the public hearing. Now we are going to go into the cases for, that are on the agenda. Now, let me ask first the pleasure of the board. Do you wish to discuss the recommendation at this point where it's listed as the first case on here?
Well, first we'd have to remove it from the table, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd move to remove the,
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Do you want to take it up now or take the other cases?
Let's do it now.
Okay, if you ladies want to stay to see what we're going to do, we're going to take it up right now. You know all the ladies. Okay.
Want me to make a motion?
Somebody
Either
needs
one
to
of us.
move.
I move that we send can you send a negative recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals? I move that we that we recommend that this variance not be granted because of the importance of keeping that area of East State Street intact.
Second.
Any discussion? We've done this before for that whole area and trying to get businesses removed. So there would be no reason to put any in there if we're trying to get rid of some of them that are there. But I think this is probably, at this point, we should not allow any business to go in that area at all, for any reason at all. And sort of that's going to be, we can't do too much about the rest that goes out towards the bypass, but on the one side of the street, on the other side of the street, we can do it something. So I'm in agreement with everybody here, and if no one else has anything to say, does anybody else have anything to say?
I'd like to have the motion include the fact that this is a principle for that whole block.
That's right,
It's
okay.
not just this one lot that we're talking about.
All right, it's for the whole area there that we're talking about.
That's
Is that okay?
acceptable.
Did you second that? Okay. Are you ready to vote? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Our recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals is don't do it. Okay, now you can leave if you want to. You're not supposed to say that on TV. Oh, well, okay. Now, they've worked so hard on that the historic district there, that they were really upset about.
Well, I don't blame you.
The next case is 0606. It's a pre-application major subdivision in the Plains. Farion, I never know how to pronounce it. Farion, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Farion.
Okay. Do you wish to tell us, I don't have any piece of paper, where is my other file?
Is there a
It's just
file
a
about
pre-app.
that?
It's a pre-app, you have to
It's a
tell us
diamond.
what you're doing. You have to come up here and tell us. I don't have a piece of paper for you.
If I could, I'll just give a little brief explanation about why Mr. Farion's here today. The project that he proposes will be called Castle Pines. It will be a major subdivision in the Plains. Because there is no zoning outside the city of Athens, state law says that the City Planning Commission has to review all projects for major subdivision within 3 miles of town. And on behalf of the Planning Commission, I also do minor subdivisions of land that number almost up to 100 in some years. So there's a great jurisdictional area, almost 80 square miles, that the city has, at least for minor and major subdivision of land. The area, if you're familiar with the Plains, where the bus depot is, across from the entrance to the high school, the next street over is First Street, runs parallel to Johnson Road, and that's where this project is located. So it's like one street back toward Athens, over from the high school, and right behind where the bus garage is at. The proposal is for a public street and for the subdivision of land, and the installation of water and sewer lines that will be maintained by the Plains Water and Sewer District, and that'd be Rich Castler as the director of that department. This is very similar to Tyler Ridge, another project on 682 South Plains Road, within 3 miles of town, but not within the city limits. This is a little different, and you'll notice that the proposal for the development of the land is much more intense, basically because of the availability of sewer service. The Plains is, in some respects, very fortunate that it has a sewage treatment system available to it, and that's why you see that intensity of development in the Plains. This is not LEAX water, it's Plains water. All the water that is supplied to the Plains is pumped from the city wells, and the city sells it to the Plains, and then Rich Castler's department distributes it. The streets will probably be maintained by the township trustees, just as all the streets in the Plains are. Archie Stanley, the county engineer, will ultimately look at the plans for the construction of the street, approve them, accept the street, and recommend the trustees take them over. County Sheriff's Department will be the law enforcement agency in charge. Plains Volunteer Fire Department will be the fire protection service, supplying fire protection. As I said, Plains Water and Sewer will be doing the utilities.
This is the Athens Township end.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. I have met with the Athens trustees, and they did approve this plan. And I have met with Rich Castler and the fire department, and they've all approved this plan, and I've gotten letters from each of them supporting these plans.
What we're actually here doing today is following the steps that are outlined in the subdivision approval process, and what we have today going on is what's called a pre-application meeting. It's an early and an informal discussion with the developer about any regulations that pertain to the project. That's fine for projects in the city. Generally what happens though is for ones outside the city, we're just here essentially to give them a list of things that we don't necessarily need, because it's not going to, we don't need the city fire department to look at it, the city police department. We don't need our water and sewer people to look at it. We don't need our streets people to look at it. We don't need any engineering submitted necessarily to Burgess and Nyepel. So really we're kind of going through a list of things we really don't need.
to do.
There could be quite a laundry list of variances, because we'll have to go down through what the city requirements are, because that's what we have to work with. So some standards may be a little different, but I think what we've discussed before is that if it's acceptable to those public entities that are ultimately going to maintain it, it's acceptable to them, why wouldn't it be acceptable to this body? You know, if it meets or exceeds standards that they have in their particular jurisdiction.
I don't even like to look at things from the Plains. Well, why don't you people get in government out there? That's my first thing, my list. The first thing you do is get some form of government out there that takes care of all this stuff, because I don't live in the Plains or on the Plains.
These are all duplexes, it looks like.
Yeah.
Is Johnson Road, where's Johnson Road on this?
Johnson
there.
Road would be, here's First Street, so Johnson would be running parallel, sorry, Jim.
Okay.
Parallel to it.
Up
Right here
there.
would be the bus depot, right about
Okay,
right
so
here.
33's over here?
Yeah, 33 would be up in this area.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, then, let me get myself on here.
You know where the high school
Yeah,
is?
but when you go along Johnson Road and you look over towards, it would be to the left where First Street is, if I'm coming from Athens?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Aren't there apartments or buildings back in there? Is that First Street?
There are some apartments, yeah, there's a small apartment complex
Yeah.
right here, and
Where-
then the bus
that's what I'm
depot right
asking.
here.
There's an-
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is there not some Indian mounds back in there, some small
The
mounds?
Indian mounds are actually across the street.
Across the street, on the
Yeah.
other side of the street?
Yeah, yeah.
But on First Street?
Yes, ma'am, yeah, there are Indian
on that
mounds
side.
over here, yeah.
But where are the apartments on this street?
The apartments are over here.
On that side of the street?
Yeah, on this side of the street,
Okay.
yeah, there's nothing on this side of the street. This is just a big open field right here. And then, a house right here, residential house, and a residential house, and just residential houses along this area right here.
Yeah, I've been down, but it's been a long time since I was on, I actually looked over there, but it's been a long time since I went down the street to see
Okay.
what it looked like.
Yeah, but we're, trying to do a nice project here, and
So this would be a new street
yeah,
off
a
of
new street
First.
right here that has been approved by the trustees and the fire department and
Are
Rich
they gonna
Castler.
fix up First Street and make it a little better?
Well, I'm gonna try to. We'll try to do a
Sidewalks?
nice,
Sidewalks?
nice landscaping area right in here, and try to do a nice job, nice new street.
Where are the sidewalks?
There's no sidewalk.
There's no sidewalks.
Oh, you have to have sidewalks. We always require
They're
sidewalks.
pretty close together.
You still
Surprised
need
the
a
fire
s-
department approved it.
Yeah, you need sidewalks because you're going to have all those little kids running around there. And then the people will say, we don't want sidewalks because we want this to be a nice
gonna
development
be-
out. But then the first thing they say is, the kids need a sidewalk to walk on or ride their bikes.
You thinking two-story?
No, these will be single
Single
story, yeah.
How big are
Total
they?
is 48 by what?
I
Yeah,
can't
they're
see it.
roughly about 1,250 square foot per unit.
49 and a half.
You looking at two-bedroom units? or-
They're actually three-bedroom units. Yeah,
So two
It's for small
three-bedroom
kids.
units and a,
yeah,
Three in each one of those things?
yes,
One of
ma'am,
the squares?
yeah. Well, no, these
No.
are duplexes.
so there'd be two
So
three.
two
Well, that's what
units,
I meant,
two
what
three-
bedroom-
two,
That is
three
correct.
bedrooms.
two in there, yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's not in Athens. That's packed. Lord.
You got it off.
We can't make you put sidewalks in, I guess. I really wish you would.
Sidewalks and lighting.
Yeah, we were gonna be putting in yard lights, yeah. This was just a preliminary,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna require in the deed restrictions to have lights in all of the front
Where's
yards.
the parking going to be?
On the driveways,
Okay.
We get garages.
yeah, and there's garages.
Where are the garages?
But basically the garages are out front.
I don't see how you're fitting all that in there.
There's going to be a garage here in the middle.
In the middle?
Right, yeah.
And there's going to be a about 20-foot wide driveway here. It's going to be shared.
Shared.
Yeah,
And then they go in on either side of the
that is correct,
garage.
yeah, yeah,
So it's a two-car garage.
Yes.
yes,
Um,
One unit for one side, the other garage
to
on
the other side, yeah.
Two different garage doors, two different wall
Yeah.
down the middle.
Yeah. I think I have a, yeah, this is.
Here's a picture.
It'll be interesting to see the list of variances that would have to have in the city.
But there isn't any mechanism for variances outside the city, right?
Well,
I mean, we just say. you
It
oughta
is
have-
right here. That's what they're gonna look like, and this is the floor plan.
Okay, that's what we need to see. Can you see that? I can't see anymore.
Nice single story, all on one floor, you know, possibly for people that are in transitional or maybe some, you know,
empty nesters out.
yeah.
Now, they're,
That's why we wanted to keep with a single story
they're
floor
both,
plan.
they're two full baths, is that what that is?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And you can see where there are three, but, you know, you could make this a small office, you know, or, you know, a sitting room as it's saying there, or, you know,
now are these for purchase or for rental?
yeah, they're for purchase. Yeah, they'll be
What's
for
this
sale.
WIC stand for? WIC and then M bath, I
That's
assume.
walk-in
master
closet.
bedroom.
Walk-in
Oh,
It's a
okay.
week.
And we're gonna try to make these affordable, somewhere around the $140,000 range. Try to make them affordable for people.
Even the master bedroom is pretty small, 12 by 13.
Well, that's why they give you the option of making this a sitting
I see.
room right here.
Uh,
Could you knock the wall out if you wanted?
Sure.
Or is it a supporting?
Yeah, you could have a heck of a big bedroom then, couldn't you?
Okay, well, still think it ought to have sidewalks.
We do too. We like sidewalks.
Well, I'll take that into recommendations, sure.
Hold up for our sidewalks. And the lights, remember the lights?
Yeah, definitely gonna have lights. That'll be in the deeds.
Is there much yard at all to this? Because I'm looking at how.
Well, you know,
it's
you'll
moving
have
back.
the green space on each sides of the drive. It's like right here.
Yeah,
at
I
the
just don't know
driveway.
any dimensions.
There'll be
You got a 50-foot public right-of-way out here.
Right.
Then probably got about maybe 10 or 15 feet outside of the right of way to your building line, so to speak. And you probably got about 13 and a half to 14 feet.
And what,
Yeah.
what's the adjacent property?
These right here.
Yeah, well,
What's in it?
What's on
What
it?
is it?
What's
Oh, there's a
built?
house right here and a house right here.
Residential.
Residential housing, yeah.
There's a residential house in the back.
Where is it?
Yes, sir.
Where's
HUD
it?
housing here.
Yeah, there's HUD housing back in the back.
That doesn't go all the way over to that, does it?
This will back up to,
What street is that back
I
to?
think this is
Third?
second or third?
Well, the HUD stuff
Third was
is
the
on
only one that
Third.
goes down very far.
Yeah, that'd be Third Street then, yeah.
Because there's,
Well, those individual
one or two
houses
streets off of
from
Johnson.
HUD are down in there.
Yeah.
But they don't go off of Fourth, but they're between Fourth and Third. You go
Yeah.
down Third to get to them, and
Yeah.
they curve around in there. There is no one here from the Plains interested in speaking to this, is there?
this is just preliminary, so.
I know, well, I
wasn't
would think that some
advertised.
people, they were very vocal about the houses that the Metropolitan Housing Authority built, I'm on that. Very vocal about those houses going in there, so I would be surprised if they were not vocal about these. I mean, they just like so many houses in there.
I'm curious about that, what I think it says drainage easement on it before.
Yeah, this is our retention pond area.
Is there anything to fence it off or anything from kids?
Well, this is going to be a dry basin.
Not when it rains hard.
Yeah, when it rains hard. But we weren't planning on fencing around it.
How deep will it get?
Maybe 3 or 4 feet deep.
I couldn't do a kid in.
High EPA is going to do water quality standards, so we're trying to be proactive to meet the water quality standards for this development. Goes to the downstream.
Well, I know there are developments with permanent ponds with children, so it's.
Well, once again, we'll take that into recommendation.
It's just a concern.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with these things.
Well, we're just supposed to give them some feedback at the initial thing.
Yeah.
Right, and we're taking, the
That
feedback
thing,
and,
I would think that some of the neighbors might think it's a little too jammed in
well,
there.
actually, this neighbor right here is the one who sold me the property,
Well,
and they were happy about it, because, I told them before they sold. And this neighbor right here actually sold me this piece of property back here to put the drainage pond in. So both neighbors are well aware of the
on
plans.
that side, but the other side
Right.
down, and I having had experience and having
Sure,
those things built in
sure.
there, I know, and some others, and then across the way back in there, I was in there the other day because went to a meeting and went down the wrong street. There's some places there that seem to have buildings that take up almost the whole lot, where they used to have those container things back in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, indeed,
Yeah.
yes.
And they
Well,
really take up the whole lot, and there are no sidewalks, and it's not very pleasant back in there. I wasn't impressed with it at all.
He said
so.
it would be, that's what he was going to do.
Yeah, that's what he said he was gonna do. Maybe I guess it's better than the containers, I don't know. But you know what I'm talking about
Sure,
back in there. Those
sure.
are not terribly attractive, and they cover most of the lot in there. Okay.
Thank you for showing us.
Okay, thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you
Yeah,
for listening
I was
to us
glad to
today.
see the picture of it and the thing too. Okay, well, I'm losing my way here. Okay, we are now at 0607 University Estates zoning designation request. This is the thing where we are supposed to decide on this.
Right. Did I bring any of that?
I thought I brought my envelope, but I don't have my envelope. What did I do with my pictures? Do you have anything of theirs here?
University Estates?
Yeah. I don't have my drawing with me. Did you bring a drawing with you, University Estate person? A map with you, University Estate?
Well, the one that had the zoning on it.
The one that had
right?
the zoning on it. And that was, the big one.
No,
the
you
big
had the
one.
big one there.
Don't you have a big one
Oh,
with the zoning? I had mine out and I don't,
Forgot to bring it.
must have. I left it on the shelf. I had a bunch of stuff in there today.
As I recall from the previous and the things, the question really is the B1s.
Right.
And it looks like in this area, it would be a mixed use, because that's the town square, right? But these would be pure residential.
This one, Mayor, would be the,
Well, that would be,
that would still be B1. I think
Well,
well,
but
I think if it's the clubhouse with the restaurant and everything in it,
with the motel.
well, and a motel, I mean, where's a motel first allowed under the code? I'm not thinking of B1, I think more B3. I'll have to ask Steve then.
Yes,
Steve?
Is B1 is that, it's an anachronism, really, B1. We should have gotten rid of
Well,
it
we
long
tried.
ago. We tried, but it's not a category that.
I did this
that we
to you
have
the
anymore.
last time. Where's the first place a hotel is allowed in? B3?
First place a hotel's allowed.
So B3?
Not in a B1.
I know that. Didn't think, we have very little B2 in the city. A little bit down Richland Avenue, as I recall, and
Yeah, there's only two B2 districts, one at the near end of Richland Avenue, one at the far end of Richland Avenue.
right. So probably if it's at the near end of the B2, it might prevent a hotel. But you're
B2
probably
might
safer.
permit a hotel. Obviously, in a B2D,
Well,
it would
what
be
I'm
permitted,
thinking-
so,
My thought is, this is where your clubhouse is, right?
Right.
So you're going to have a multitude of business activity. There's going to be a pro shop, there's probably going to be a restaurant, you know, who knows what all, and over the years might develop within it. So to me, you're better off having the heaviest B use you can do, because that allows you the most flexibility down the road.
right. B3 would obviously allow all the uses that might be proposed there.
Right.
What's that going to be? Why does that?
Why
need
is
to be
that?
done?
Well,
It
that
should
was
be.
all part of that. Wait, that was all part of this thing, so we thought we had to zone it together. Since that time, did I just hear you right? You're saying this should go to B3?
I'm thinking so, because you're talking restaurant, you're talking pro shop, you're
not
talking
this.
maybe hotel.
Not this.
This.
These are apartments or something.
These and all these, if I understood you right, should go back to R3.
Well, those as
Well, they
apartments.
permit multifamily residential, and I thought some of these were gonna have more than one unit in them. Okay. These are looking more like probably say standalone ones. I mean, unless you're gonna do duplexes or triplexes.
No, they're going to be separated buildings.
Right,
They'll
but
take
just
a look
one
at-
unit in it.
Yes.
But it is a residential unit.
Right.
So why can't this be R1?
Well, it could be, but we're not platting, but their concept is that this is going to be an overall development with one ownership prop. They are not platting these, because nowhere in their future plans do they have that platted, and that's why it can't be an R1.
Okay.
But they're looking at those as being, if I understand, timeshares potentially?
Timeshares.
But the individual buildings, not single buildings, it's not a apartment or a connected thing. They're all going to be
Yeah, they're
high-class.
going to have to, as they develop to this point, I think they're really going to have to think of it. So that's why I was saying,
These
in
are
my
the same
mind,
thing
give them
down
the
here,
most
and
flexibility. Because if it is, at some point, because this is going to be the abandoned Armitage Road, right? Which will be a private road. But somewhere down the road, I could see that somebody would say, oh, I'll upgrade that, make it a public road, lot these off and plat them out. It might be 20 years from now, and I want to sell these as individual. What kind of zoning can we do that, you know, that doesn't become a problem at some point? A B, it definitely is a problem putting a single-family residential on a B, any B. Although B1 is the most loose. Now, R3 does also allow you to have a B1 business use. I can't really envision it down here, but in these others, especially here, what I envision, Lance, is that you're going to have a mix of
I
ice
thought
cream
this was. I
parlor,
thought this
maybe a
was
bookstore.
the commercial area over here, and you just.
No, he's having that as a commercial area too.
And what's this?
It's WATH.
Oh, yes.
But this is my understanding, it's like going to be hopefully developed like a town square almost.
Right.
That's the concept. That they're gonna have maybe a bookstore, maybe a ice cream shop, a small restaurant, would be possible, but there would be also residential. And that's where we tried to tie down with Steve, can residential be on the ground floor to B1? And he said it could in a B1, as I recall. So that could, B1 may be the right, because that's a neighborhood businesses and everything else. So I really don't have, under our current zoning, it looked like council wants to change it. But these that are all just residential, to me, R3 is better, because it will allow you.
These, and these should be R3.
Yeah, see, you have
That's
all
my
these little,
idea.
you have R3 here, you have R3 here, this is all R3, this is R3, this is R3.
Yeah, they all
And
flow
all
together.
this flows in, this all seems to be, except when you get way over here, these are all R3, and then up here appears to be, should be R1s up that way.
Well-
So you get over,
Over in here, I'm not, I mean, since all of that is not platted yet,
well,
it
no,
doesn't bother me
but
quite as
it's,
much. But, and I'm not sure if we were getting to a goal of numbers of units or something or what, but if I had an all R1 street like this with what, 20-some lots? Would you want to end up in an R3?
There's a density.
You know?
yeah.
I wouldn't really want to, but,
Well, they don't have that platted.
no, none of those are platted. But if we're taking all of it into the city, we're supposed to zone it all.
But
Well,
this is
then-
platted.
Now,
Okay,
the
then
old rule was
I would say
zone it
all
all
R1.
R1, and then as it was platted, you'd rezone.
There was,
But that's-
that's a good idea, that was a good idea.
Well, it didn't make a lot of sense for TS Trim.
It did make sense for TS Trim, but it makes sense for, it really makes sense, you start at the most,
And then probably
Yeah,
this
you work your way
there
down.
goes to R3.
Yeah, if that's all multifamily housing. Because you're not, in, at least in the conception, because what you're in this is conceptualizing also where platted lots will probably be. But until you get to platting, that can change. And so you have to be careful on the that's why you have to be careful out here on the R3s in a way, because you can still build an R1 and an R3, but if I didn't buy all the lots, and I bought one of those R3
Big
lots
lots.
and somebody else bought 3 other R3 lots and built it, I'd be upset. It'd be legal for them to do it.
oh, which part is platted already? To right there, to there? Down how far? Just
All the way down through here.
all of this,
Yeah.
down here?
Now, this is not platted. It comes
Well, that's what I
these
said, all
here,
the way down.
and then this lot, what's this, where's, this lot
Along
goes
here
to
is
where?
platted, is that what he's
Just to-
telling me?
I guess that lot,
That lot,
but this one is a lot,
yeah,
lot 5, but it goes right to this,
5 and 4 goes up like this.
okay.
4 and
Well, it must
5.
go right to here, to hook
Well, we
into
got the
that.
walkway.
Oh, you got the walkway, that's right, 50-foot.
Lot
Or
4,
whatever.
lot 5, that one, these aren't, that is. And then this is where nursing homes and things are. That's that whole thing, but is
Well, that's
this-
why we're at B3 on all of this.
These would be retirement condo type things up here.
Right, now this could well be an assisted living in addition to nursing home, because they'd all be,
And these are all, this is where the office area, your office.
Mine's where my office is right there.
because we're doing most of the beat, because this is really up on a ridge top. Although they are connected geographically by lots,
They're
there's
not
a
your own
distance of
s-
50, 75 feet there probably in elevation, probably. So it isn't like you're just
None of
right
this
next
has
door
been
on Stimson
done out
Avenue
here.
versus Morris. It's a totally different thing.
Oh, but it hasn't been platted out here yet, for instance.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to say where is it R1 and where is it R3. As in taking the map in as is.
Well, but see, I think part of the concern and part of the thing, there's a financial reason for a lot of these things too, right? That's why you're saying numbers of units, et cetera, are important, because you have to recapture the water, the sewer, the roads, the land, and all the landscaping and all the other stuff. So
The total density,
it's still pretty light,
pretty light,
but I think
1.4 per acre, and which is 1,182 units, and that's probably stretching it. And we were okayed for 1,600 for the project, so, but, you know, a lot of it's grouped.
right.
And then after
It
that.
should be more
it's,
intense here than down that
And
way.
after there,
What I'm asking, I guess, is if we make a recommendation for the zoning now, is there a way, a legal description way to delimit where is R3 and so on, or do we incorporate it all into this map and say, this is what we are recommending, or how do you draw the lines between the zones on it?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering.
We don't have a meets and bounds, so it's really
So we
difficult
can't.
to do.
Accordance with the exhibit attached.
With this drawing that we suggest these areas be this, and when it's,
And then when we plat it out, we confirm it.
put the actual boundary.
Okay. But what we're going to recommend then is instead of these B1s, they'll be R3s.
That's right.
And that will work all right for you?
yeah, this one, and then all
And down here,
Yeah.
all
okay.
this, down here.
Yeah.
1, 2,
Yeah.
here.
Well, and see, the other advantage to that is if in your future plans, you start to say, oh, you know, I can save a little bit, still get good quality if I duplex these. You got the ability to do it. If it's a 1, you don't.
And they are.
Well, yes, you would in the B1. It just seems
But
weird to have
B1
only
is.
housing in a B1.
Yeah, I think we ought to stay away from B1 as much as we can, because it's,
I'm thinking give it an R, but make it flexible by giving it a 3.
yeah, it's an R3 is flexible.
But this is purely what in essence, as I understand, they want, instead of everybody having to go all the way here with the clubhouse and everything here, they want to create a hopeful business area for all these residents to get the newspaper, get candy,
bicycle,
you know,
bands.
bicycle, all that kind of stuff. So I can see the B1 under our current concept, although because it is going to cater to that group of people through here.
Well, that's the only place I would see. I don't think this area up here, I think we have to
Well,
look
that
at
has
it as
to
a
be the
different
equestrian
way.
center.
Has to be, and it has farm animals in it. Horses are farm animals. We have regulations on farm
And
animals.
there's no problem with this B3. right here.
What is that down there?
That'll be the maintenance facility.
Oh,
And the offices
Okay,
for the fire
and
department.
see, they have an office over here. And then this is this thing here, this is an R1 kind of stuck up, but it's up above these, it's kind of stuck
It's
there.
got a separate entrance, and it's kind of down a hill too. So
yeah.
I don't know if that one will sell or not. We'll have to
That's that
see.
big, that big one by
No,
itself, or
the other big
where's
one
that? That
is,
is this one.
Lot 33.
Somebody buy that yet? Put in a football field? I'm gonna buy it and put a trailer park in.
Not under this zoning.
No,
they
no,
will.
I'll see you get that through planning commission.
So the next step is for us to recommend the zoning.
Right, and I think what we
We-
need to
we
do
need is a
between
new
now
one
and
of these
what goes to
things.
council is to make up a new one
And
with
change
that on
that.
it, and then just bring it in and have Joanne have a signature line or something.
So you
saying-
not just
so that
cross
we
it out,
know
but
and
change
the
it
dates,
around and the
So we know
dates.
that that's what it
I'll
is,
bring
because there's more than one of these floating around.
a
Right.
new one and
Yeah.
this one stapled together.
So we
That's
don't,
fine.
yeah, that's
That
good,
way you can
okay.
compare
We'll
and
see
look.
what-
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be
That way
good.
I
That'd be
don't
good.
Get accused of
Changing.
No.
changing something.
We'll put our fingerprint on it.
Well, we don't know that, you know, some of these way out here, it might be 10 years before they get subdivided.
Maybe none of us will still be here.
I'm hoping that's the
Hopefully.
case.
We'll have done with it.
I'll be in retirement by then, I hope.
I'll be dead.
You'll be living up there.
Yeah.
No, that's too far out when you get that old, sorry.
So we need a motion.
Motion, yes, I've
Into-
lost, Did you
recommend.
steal my, did he steal my stuff?
We need a motion to recommend the zoning for the University Estates annexation as delineated in the attachment A as presented to the planning commission. Does that sound about right?
And amended by the planning commission.
And amend, yeah.
As recommended, is what we're his proposal has no
His original
standards.
proposal
His
was
original
amended.
proposal has no validity. He's gonna bring something back, and then we're still gonna say we're gonna recommend that.
Okay,
'Cause
so
we
we're
didn't
not
recommend
gonna-
the first
So we're
one.
not gonna do anything yet till we get the new.
No, I think,
map.
no, as amended is right.
As
Okay.
amended,
But what I'm
but
saying is he
to
will-
them. As we
Okay.
told him to change it.
Yeah.
And then we,
Then
because
we-
Joanne would then have to move forward the letter and the map once received by the developer and signed off on by the commission chairman.
So we
my
recommend the zoning
intention.
for University Estates, according to their proposal as amended by the planning
That's
commission.
Right.
On May
And that
4th.
where meets and bounds surveys are, that is clearly delineated, and where it is yet to be, will be delineated upon
When it's
plat
platted.
approval, once the property is platted. But this is the general guideline and recommendation of
I'll second that.
it. Listen, I
All
forgot
in
what
favor,
I
say
said.
aye. I didn't ask you.
Aye.
All in favor,
Aye.
say aye. Okay, it's aye. Okay, all of you people are sitting out there talking to each other and you're not paying attention. I was gonna call on somebody here.
Waiting for their business.
Communications, we had, an email, didn't get the email from Debbie Walker, so I didn't have an email from Debbie
You've
Walker.
got the,
What did it say from Debbie
It's
Walker?
in your packet.
here it is,
Oh, that, it's
Made a
under
copy
here.
of it.
about
I
tomorrow.
lost my packet, see,
You take that.
I don't have that piece, yes I do, it's under here. I thought Lance took all my papers, but he didn't. Okay,
We're in court.
we have to, as you know, there's a hearing scheduled for Friday, May 5th at 9:00 a.m. in Judge Ward's courtroom in the county courthouse. The issue is they will present testimony from Chief Roxel, Josh Reinecke, is that how you say that? And Robert Weiler. Gary would like the mayor, council members, and the planning commission members to attend and show support. This is a hearing on Fall and Stokes appeal.
Excuse me?
The Fall and Stokes appeal, this is the
Retirement
Nice.
center.
retirement center they brought suit against them.
We're having-
And there, two people were allowed to be a party to the, uh-huh. This was dated May 1st, the thing. There, I know, you just, well, I need to get earlier notice than this because I could be busy at that time. And I need 2 weeks in advance. It says Michael
Across the
Ward.
street,
Comment,
Judge Ward.
please.
They were the two people from the neighborhood who were allowed to stay on that's, well, aren't we being sued, so shouldn't we
Yes.
be there?
Well,
Should we
That's-
dress up or just,
I'm afraid I won't be able to be there.
uh-oh, he's not gonna be there.
and you're not coming?
I can't, no, I
You
got doctor's
can't, well-
appointment at 10.
Well, you could come for a little bit.
I didn't plan on it, but I can go, all right. Number 2, communication from Diversified Properties.
It's all normal.
And their communication, they wish to say it out loud to us. One of them come over here.
Is this Act 3 for
4.
Putman Square?
Pardon?
Act 3 for Putman Square?
That's not our project, man.
This is something
Bob,
different.
Harold
Thank you
Square.
for
Harold
asking.
Square.
Harold
Harold
Square.
Square.
Harold
It
Square.
must
See,
be
it's been
4.
gone from us for so long, I almost forgot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself, because we don't know who you are.
My name is Jim Bloom from Diversified Properties of Athens. You want to introduce yourself?
John Cole, Northside Property.
We're here to have a informal discussion, or at least give you some insight into proposal for really a fairly dramatic change. We have the approved PUD, Herald Square, which is located between Herald and Blick, that was approved several years ago, which would have been the site of an apartment project that we had approved and developed. We began development on the site, which included, after there was a rather dramatic flood event in that neighborhood, the introduction of about 400 truckloads of fill to bring that site up to an appropriate level for residential construction. During that time period, we watched very closely as the adjacent property that I think we discussed at the time of original application continued to further deteriorate and become more unsightly and more unhealthy. And ultimately, after that flood event that occurred, a significant number of the existing homes that were there were removed because of damage incurred during that flood event. We became concerned about the introduction of our development the more we noticed that site having a dramatic effect on the neighborhood, which is one of the reasons after we filled the site that we, for lack of better words, put the brakes on to really review what we were doing there. Subsequently, a very short time ago, we learned that the final residence that exists on that site was to be removed based on health department and code enforcement, which really, in our estimation, is going to change that neighborhood dramatically. Which leads us to the fact that we're considering doing something completely different, and which we recognize will involve a myriad of technical and documentational exercises. John, this would be when you show them. Okay.
You've forgotten what you're supposed to do.
And basically, what we're considering doing there, those of you that are familiar with the townhouse community that we've created called Westfield Place, that has been very successful, and the market has just responded to that location incredibly. We think now that that site bears, really all of the attributes to make that, more of a combination site, owner and non-owner occupancy, instead of just putting an apartment site down there. So we've gone to what we consider our comfort zone, which is attached townhouse development, and we're, as you can see with what John's showing you there, we would like to consider developing that site with 16 townhomes attached in the groups. What is it, 6 buildings total, John?
6,
Yeah.
Six buildings. Again, this is very similar in style to what we've done at Westfield. Some important propaganda for you to review there.
Just to review what Jim is talking about, currently, we've got one parcel here, and that parcel is comprised of a series of 4 apartment buildings with a common parking area. Obviously, the density is significantly higher than, we're really going in the other direction here. We're diminishing density, and what this proposal is, here is Harold, here is Blick. We're looking at the possibility of actually putting a city street connecting the two, bisecting the property, and creating a series of individual 0 lot line lots. And comprised will be 3-unit, 2-unit, 3-unit, and mirrored here. Just visually, this is what we're doing at Westfield. And if you look at these buildings here, not that this is the same, but this is the feeling of what we're going to be creating on a smaller scale here.
Would they be as tall as these?
No,
Well, we
not
haven't-
as-
no,
No.
that they would
That
not.
would be a little tall for that.
Actually, it would be like that.
Well, the reason for moving in this direction, and again, the number one reason is that we think the site conditions have changed dramatically. Number two, this is a piece of property that is
But
really at this point close in the city.
But you aren't changing the site size.
No.
So even though other structures may have been torn down, they're owned by somebody who may build something later.
Sure. Sure, but from the
And
that's fine.
overall is that all Zone B?
Yeah,
B3?
and that, you know, that would
So
be
you could
fine because what's
become
been,
another island.
and that's okay, but what's been removed, which was incredibly, I really don't
In
know
need of
what the
replacement.
tactful way to describe it.
Undesirable.
Needed
Thank you.
refurbished.
Yeah, refurbished is the word I'm looking
Yeah, I
for.
went
The
back in
important
there.
thing is the trailer park license has been taken away. So if something else is built there, it probably would be more of either a residential or business building.
And it's a very challenging site because it's triangular in shape. It will require a similar or greater amount of fill to bring it to a flood approval level. And by the time that takes place on that triangular site, you're going to have a limited amount of development. But nonetheless, there could be other development there, and that would be at least
And
new
you're talking, because yours
Where
is
is that
already
site?
filled, the street would be elevated also. then.
Our street.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, the street would, the first floor of the building would be out of the floodplain.
Right.
But the street would be pretty much on the existing grade, which has already been raised.
Where is the triangular piece that
It's
you're
here.
talking about?
It's
Oh,
adjacent.
okay, right,
And then there's the fairgrounds right
Yeah,
here.
the fairgrounds are
You go
over
back
here.
down in there.
This is Larry's Doghouse is here,
Right.
looking,
Okay.
looking
I've
for
got the-
monuments. And then back into visiting nurses
Right.
back in
Yeah,
here.
gotcha.
So, again, the market conditions really are driving the interest in changing. Again, we think we would have an opportunity to do
So you're talking 16 units.
16 units, primarily 2-bedroom, 2-bath townhomes with garages, single garages.
Do you want to ask where the sidewalks are?
Well, last time we had
Is
this,
this a time? Is this a time?
I thought they already had them in, didn't ask anymore. They just automatically had the sidewalk.
On both sides.
You first draw the sidewalks and then you do the rest of it.
I'm rarely speechless, but you know, we'd like to discuss in that regard is the quality of the outstanding city street on Harold Avenue. It's about, how wide is it?
12 feet.
It's about 12 feet wide.
I know.
You know, a new street there would look good with a full sidewalk.
Well, there's
And then it
she's
could come
from
around
city
the-
council. That's correct.
Yeah, the sidewalk would be as big as the street.
Well,
That's all right.
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
we could be talking about a 42-inch sidewalk there possibly, you know, depending on what that street
Oh,
is.
Well-
gee.
Holy cow.
But your other place has that so little one that you have to walk sideways on it to go down.
But there
We
was
haven't
a
noticed you walking sideways on
proposal
this.
roughly 10 years ago to make Harold all the way over to West State Street.
Yeah, that's what the
That'd be great.
thing was,
I wish we could go back, but
But what we're looking at doing really here is transforming this into a, residential development.
with the potential to do both. You know, if they're zero lot line, obviously we can convey these and we can sell these units, which we have demonstrated there is certainly a tremendous desire for this type of property in the city. I mean, the resale of the existing units here has been very, very strong.
Are these 2 or 2.5 stories?
Two.
2, okay.
So
And
what you
there's
have
one-
really is you have a first floor.
Okay.
um,
And somebody's got a window on the first floor, in between the garages.
Those are doors, right?
That's,
The door.
that
That's the
right
front
there
door.
is this door.
Oh, okay.
And you come in, this actually, the garage is lower, it's about 3 or 4 feet lower
Uh-huh.
than the first floor. This first floor is out of the floodplain. The garage is more on grade with the ground. Then the second floor is the 2 bedrooms upstairs. So what you're looking at here are the 2 windows of this front bedroom.
I see, yeah, okay.
You've got 2
It's
bedrooms.
like an attic space above.
Right there, yeah. So you really have a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhome, 16 of
stairs.
them. And there's really no basement because of the flood issue.
So we think it would be a real positive addition, neighborhood-wise, actually creating another residential location. We've got walking distance to a lot of the amenities. Our target market could be a great number of different folks that have business down on, by the hospital, by that end of the campus. We've had a lot of interaction with graduate students and first-time buyers that have had an interest in this product. So, and we think that the use of the site is, we're going to a less strenuous use of the site in terms of people and cars and pavement, because now we've got a street coming through where, I don't have our other plan in front of us, but we had some significant asphalt going on there. So, there's grass.
So basically, you're using is this a 1-car garage?
Yes.
But there would be enough room from the street there to, in essence, stack.
There's
a
gotta
car.
be, that will have to be part of.
Because otherwise, you're not creating any parking areas at all.
No, because by the time you have curb cuts to allow
Right.
people in and out.
I
So
know.
we anticipate a car in the garage and a car in the driveway, which is
Yeah.
really what has taken place out here.
Now, it's a shared driveway, though. No, it's
No.
not a
No.
shared
No.
driveway. Okay,
These are
right. That's the
individual.
other one,
No
sorry.
shared.
Westfield
right.
had some
Yeah,
share.
see, this is 1, 2, there's
Oh,
no.
yeah, right.
But we were trying to reduce paved area out there because
Yeah.
of soil conditions
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
This is obviously
But
flat.
different, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not.
And obviously, when we did the last plan, we met with all of the infrastructure-related issues. We have very good capacity, water, stormwater, sanitary,
Hydrants.
everything
Yeah, that was all
is checked
there.
out, double checked out, and, we're looking at less use here.
And with the rising price of gasoline, you might even find people taking the city buses. I'm sure they'd be happy to pick that route up and
Yeah, I don't know. Awfully short street.
what to get.
They could
To
walk.
get a
down
bus
the
down the
street.
street?
No, just to get everybody, there's only going to be 18 residents on this one street. It's
16.
only going to go, or 16, it's
Yeah.
only going to go, 500 feet?
Not even,
You know,
a couple of, 250.
it'll be a challenge to find.
To find the
City
street.
maps.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's like,
Well,
find Green Street for me.
no
I
more
know where it
challenging
is.
I know-
than
I
some
know
of the
where it
other
is,
streets.
But the university doesn't know where the original Green
Well, you
Street
could name it West Herald.
Well, that would be
See, then
fine.
could-
West
How about
Herald.
Uncle Harold? I mean, anything that would be appropriate would be.
What is it zoned now?
Well,
B3.
B3.
B3, of course, it was brought in, it's now shown as a single parcel because it was approved as a PUD, which they finally did this year. They finally consolidated it because there were 11 separate lots that we purchased from Kate.
Walter.
Thank you. Right, right. And then we bought then we bought these extra lots down here from Harvey Frank. But, so those were all deleted, and now we want to come back and put other lots in their place because we don't have anything else.
Well, at least we don't have, it's good that it's consolidated, it'll make it nice and clean on the lot lines.
Yes, it will.
You won't have a lot line.
Yeah. Well,
merged
we laid
together
it
going
out
through
and
the
designed the
living room.
building around the layout. And
So we're coming here asking for less.
So this is a subdivision then?
whatever you'd like
A
to
minor
call it. We'll call it
subdivision?
whatever you'd like.
Is this a minor subdivision, Steve?
What is it, Steve?
No, it'd be a major subdivision.
Major sub, right, major because it's 16.
Yeah, you're creating parcels, more than 5, less than 5 acres in area, up public street, public water, public sewer, that meets the definition of major subdivision.
Okay,
And it kicks in the sidewalks.
It's not.
Yeah, see, you
Yeah.
have to do the sidewalk.
basic mandatory.
Both sides of the road.
What's a concrete company?
No, Youngstown, they're into.
That's another story.
They, not concrete so much.
So we don't have to do anything about the zoning of this? It seems to me it
Well, I
ought to
would
be an
think that you
R3.
should change the zoning, yes, for that particular, but I mean,
R3.
you're dropping an R3 or something with,
If you go to an R3, it's.
well, the only
those
reason we're talking about
possibilities.
R3s is in the respect that you don't want, right next to the B, you don't necessarily want an R1.
Yeah,
Which is really what these are gonna be.
well, they are, but on the other hand, they're all
But-
connected and they're
Yeah,
not.
R1.
yeah.
There's another issue in point in the way that I think you'd want the R3, because also in the way that the code was written, to permit stacked parking is permitted in what, an R1 and 2, but not in 3?
Not three.
Well, I want that changed, get it out of R1, I'll tell you
So you
that.
have to look at that
Bad
too.
news.
So,
You have to
unless
look at all
that
the
came in as a,
ramifications.
that would not come in as a variance to allow the stack parking.
That, we don't grant
Oh, I'm
variances, that's the
sorry.
zoning board.
Sorry.
They're not.
We don't want to go there. Thank you.
But they're not gonna really have stacked parking if you've got space for.
Well, you've got
Well,
two
what you
You've got
have
bedrooms.
two
is you have a
bedrooms,
car in
you've
the,
got Space in the
if
garage.
you have a car in a garage and you have a car in a driveway, but the city right-of-way.
No, the
will-
code says,
will
whether it's
encumber-
owner occupied or whatever, says if you have a unit that has 2 bedrooms, you must have 2 parking spaces.
Well, but you can't
That
count
in an
one
R-
in the garage
Yeah,
and one
they
in the
count them.
driveway?
Only in an R1 and an R2. You cannot stack park in an R3.
What would you like to call this? What would be the proper zoning designation? Because we're looking to your guidance for that.
R4.
We don't have one of those.
We aren't
R2,
sure
D2.
yet, this is the preliminary meeting, so we'll take our time to think about it.
We'll think about it.
Well, that's
while you go
fine.
think
I
about
mean,
it.
we're-
The R1 sounds okay, but I hate it being surrounded by the R3.
Is
Although
that
the
all-
back of
what's-
the property is right next to the old railroad right-of-way,
Right,
which is unimproved at this time, owned by the city.
yeah, an alley.
What is all that?
There's an
Is-
alley,
Is
and
that
then
all
there's the
R3 around
railroad,
there?
old railroad right-of-way the
E3?
city owns.
E3.
And then
The
on the other
front?
side of that is
The
part
back?
of the
Water treatment.
water treatment plant or the service garage compound, one or the other.
Because that's where the nurses is that all B3
That's
in
back
there?
in here, yeah.
It's
That's,
M? We still have an M down there.
well,
I need
we're,
to see a
we're,
map that's all around there. I forget what's all
well,
around the
we will
zones.
provide all that. Today was the just casual.
Yeah, because it doesn't, Jefferson intersect at some point with Harold.
Jefferson.
Yeah, it goes
Yeah,
right along
there's
the side.
Jefferson's down there.
It's an angled street that goes right along the fairgrounds
People need to go out
uh,
there. It goes
fence.
like that. There's
Well,
a
it
Jefferson.
side
doesn't,
of
it doesn't exist. I mean, it might, I don't want to say
There's
you're
a
delusional.
street sign.
No.
There's a
It
street-
doesn't
there's a
exist
street
in the-
sign for
it-
Jefferson
It's
down
not a
there.
de facto.
It goes off Union right at the end of the fairgrounds?
Oh, and it runs along the fence line?
Yeah.
And it, yeah, and it
But
runs
it's through
into
the
Harold.
backyard of that.
Yes, it is.
And it's encumbered by power poles.
But it has a street
Those
sign.
minor details.
Okay.
That is
There's
Okay,
a
sorry.
sign that says
But you
Jefferson.
can
says
drive through
Jefferson.
there because I did once by accident.
On the
I was-
grass?
Well, it wasn't grass, it was sort of a little track. It wasn't exactly a street. I was
is.
looking for the visiting
Well, it's one of the
tourists.
reasons it's a triangle there on that other side.
Well,
But there
Well-
is further property up by you, up above here, I believe.
Well, what are, I want,
This is the visiting nurses back
Right.
here.
but I
believe.
want to know what these zones are around here.
I think this
Zoning.
is all R3.
He says it's,
Maybe you're
Steve,
B3.
Steve said there's
B3.
B3, and there's some
Because
that,
you've got
some of
state
it's
electric back in
manufacturing.
there.
We're
You've got
adjacent to State Electric, right here,
Larry's
right in
Doghouse.
front.
You've got the offices on Blue Line. You got the old Highlander, which I don't know if it's an apartment unit now. or a
Highlander,
hotel,
well,
whatever.
motel, but
It's
we've
at
got
Blue
that
Line. It's the
apartment.
next street down.
yes.
In between Blue Line and Blick.
And Dr. Quinn,
Dr. Quinn and Larry's Doghouse and State Electric.
and then,
Yes, I see that.
The housing
Yes.
authority fixed up that one.
Right, you did
building
this
down-
outside
Yeah,
building
like this
over
one down
here.
here, we fixed
Is
that
this
up. This is,
Jefferson? This green?
I don't know what the green one is.
Something.
There was a water line going down it, yeah.
Well, there was a street sign.
These
Yeah,
these
this
were
is-
these
this
were
is-
all trailers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that, I went back in
Yeah, I
there
sort of
to go
was
back
in
into
the
here,
backyards
and I
of some
was
of the trailers.
just,
I'm amazed you.
I went back to see the,
Somebody's lawn.
Yours was on the right of way.
see all these trailers and things are gone. I went back in there and I was just really amazed.
Can I ask a question about timeline?
You can
Oh, how many, what year are you in now?
What year am I in? My freshman year.
No,
No,
but
no,
you
no, I
passed
mean,
the
when you first
approval.
came in
Yeah.
and
I
got
know. I-
Harold
2001,
Square.
2001. We have some maps
Oh,
that
well,
say
we don't have,
01.
there has to be a number on it someplace, but this isn't listed as a.
Okay,
Trying to get this
Case
done.
number.
before
Well,
Social
I think
Security
this
The
one
goes
ordinance
in.
is in '03.
We'd have to get Steve's
03.
advice as to whether or not this is a change to a PUD that we've done. and-
But doesn't approval run out?
Yes, it does, and I think it probably has.
I think it has too long time ago, probably.
But
Maybe
I
we
don't
need
know
to
if you
start
want to
from
create a
scratch.
link in the files to it, or just refer to it in the other, I don't know. That's one of the preliminary things Steve will advise us on, because we're really going totally away from PUD and going to a major subdivision.
I actually like this much
Yeah,
better than the
yeah,
original
yeah.
proposal. I mean, I think this is a much better proposal than the
Good.
original one.
Good. Well, we do too, that's why we're here. And,
And it's good to have some of that kind of housing down in that
well,
area.
that's,
I think that's
you know,
very
as we
good.
watch what's happening again, just the market itself is showing us that this level of affordability is where the market is most active. People are struggling to find new construction in
In town.
price ranges.
Yeah.
This is the way we can deliver a price range by doing attached housing. You know, if you build this as a single-family house, it becomes a different situation.
Well-
There's an economy of massing those units.
There's an energy efficiency involved
Yeah,
too,
too,
in
yeah.
having them together.
Mhm.
You're right.
So I think there are lots of good reasons for that plan, as long as
Well,
it
it's
has
right,
that.
it's just got 2 stories instead of,
What, a
well,
sidewalk's
no,
not
your
have to be
Meadow
as
Lane
long
had
either.
2 stories too.
Yeah, some of them are too
And
small.
this is not much different than that.
Same thing.
It's the same
Garage
overall.
is on grade with the ground
Right,
in the floodplain.
yeah,
And then the living space is out.
right.
It's the same
Deck on the
concept.
back.
Yeah, because you can park
those
in the
kind of
floodplain,
things.
you
Are these
can't live in
decks?
it.
Right.
Same
Little
concept.
decks in the back, yeah, little decks.
I like the looks of it.
I'll tell you, back here, and actually, all of it's pretty decent. It's all, and, you know, this is really, Blick's pretty nice, it's pretty residential feeling.
It is.
There's an apartment complex here, but there's a,
That's
you know,
my-
there's a
it's
sense of
my apartment
residency on
complex
Blick.
there.
And really what triggered this was just, you know, the big change over here. Even if they do come in and,
Do
you know,
something
build
else.
storage buildings. or-
No, I just always want to point that out, that
I
if you don't
understand.
own and control it, then what's it zoned right next to you is important to you.
Sure.
Because it tells you a direction that somebody could potentially build.
The building was fine.
So we will work closely then with Steve to get the appropriate direction and come in with actually,
Yeah, we'll come in for preliminary, see, on subdivisions, we still do a preliminary, we have to do a public hearing on the subdivision only. And,
so timeline, as I got back to time,
We'll
you
go
laugh.
back toward Labor Day.
It'll be
Yes,
6 months.
well, you want the right to individually sell these, so you have to go subdivision.
Yeah,
Go PUD.
absolutely, we want to have that in there.
Yeah,
Sure.
but you want to build them,
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to sell
Unless you
them.
want to build them.
No, sell the lots.
I'm not
no.
into
no,
that.
no, you're building them to sell.
Yeah, sell
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
keep.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're not selling a lot to somebody and say this, is, you know.
Absolutely.
Build a 3-unit building.
Yeah, build it
Yeah.
build it.
Be an interesting
Turn it into one
experiment.
or something.
It's a package price for 3 lots.
Okay, thank you. We'll wait to
Okay.
hear from Steve as to our
What the next
direction.
What the
level
next-
of pain is. We'll
Okay.
check into those concrete
We're
prices.
giving them to you,
Thank you.
or you to them, I don't know which way it goes. Them to you to tell them what they have to do. Okay? You look like you have a headache, maybe, I'm not sure.
like to clarify a few
Okay, okay. That's why you have a headache, the look on your face.
About 16 months ago, that area had a severe flooding event. Bill Ross owned a trailer park right there in that area. And trailer parks, for their development, their infrastructure, and for their flood protection are governed by the Athens County Health Department. So after the flood, as the flood damage administrator, I dealt with all the properties that were on platted lots, and I worked with Mike Cooper and Chuck Hammer at the Health Department on the trailer park. What I worked with, especially with Mike Cooper on that, was, isn't this the most appropriate time to possibly have Mr. Ross's trailer park license reviewed by the Health Department and possibly revoked, or bring that trailer park up to an acceptable standard, because it had been in decline, as indicated in a lot of the conversation. So, having jurisdiction over flood damage, the Health Department had several trailers removed. I had a couple others on private lots removed from the area. And then Mr. Ross lost his trailer park license. The Health Department let it lapse, did not renew it. That last trailer now is in my jurisdiction. I've issued condemnation orders on it, unfit for human habitation, and I've also condemned the structure. There's only a couple weeks left, and if Mr. Ross does not remove the trailer, we'll have the trailer demolished, hauled away, and a lien filed against the property. So that last trailer will be gone. The site will be cleaned up, graded, seeded, revegetated. That'll be part of the contract, excuse me, for the demolition of the trailer. There is still one little small private lot on the end of the trailer park, and that's the little triangle where Gussie Barnhart used to live. If you remember, her trailer, I ordered out, and then she subsequently was allowed to bring a trailer into the fairgrounds as a groundskeeper or a night watchman. The little triangle created by her lot is the intersection of Jefferson and Harold. Jefferson runs right along the fence of the fairgrounds. It's 10 feet wide. It's the location of the city relief sewer that was installed, probably about 10.
97.
Yeah. Very early on in Mayor Abel's administration, that sewer line went in. So that boundary line right there, Jefferson, is where it goes over and intersects all the way up at West Union Street. From there, north to the railroad bed, and then west to the river, is all zone B3. South of the railroad bed, Union Street, that whole area, B3. There are some single-family residences back in there, but it's pretty much a mix of business and residence. So although the zoning is not necessarily characteristic of the uses there, this is a use similar to some in the area. So I'm not sure what you want to do about the rezoning. If, you got a whole area there that's B3, does it really make sense to make one little island there?
Right, that's what bothers me, because I know that there are some homes on Blick, there are apartment buildings back off of Blue Line.
Right.
And maybe, but once you get over to the Veterans Clinic and such, yeah, that's all business all the way out through
Right.
there, or clubs.
Yeah. For example, behind the VA clinic, there are platted city lots.
Right.
Quite a few. But there are no structures on them. So right now, its highest and best use, according to the zoning map, is business. Residential now is not permitted on the first floor. If the zoning's not changed, there'll be some additional variances needed for residential on the first floor, for some stacked parking, and possibly for some the number of parking spots. A minimum of 2 is required, and stacking's not permitted.
Well, we may want to look at it just from the standpoint that I know there are a couple of different apartment buildings and some single-family residential in that, that what is appropriate, we ought to look at the whole area. And
I can
contact
identify
these
the uses
property
for you. I can give you a zoning map and identify the use of everything in that area. Now, everything, the fairgrounds is zoned M, where visiting nurses is zoned M. There's still that whole M area clear over to the, actually clear over to Schaefer Street, including the cemetery, except for University Commons. When it was carved out, it was zoned R3. But that was also old railroad bed. So I can do that. I can show you the different uses and the different zoning in the area. So it's been quite a while trying to clean that area up, and we're really close to being there. What we've been doing here is the same as Mr. Ferrion was doing. This is a pre-application meeting for a major subdivision, except in this case, obviously, there's a lot more attention to be paid because we have zoning, we have use compatibility and contradiction. We have police and fire that have to respond to this area. We have water and sewer. Those capacities, having been checked out already from the other project, are known to be fine. But for example, too, the fire chief will need to look at the width of the right-of-way, the width of the street. Will he be able to turn his ladder truck around that corner? I mean, there's additional information that the next step being a preliminary plan application. So just to clear all that up a little bit on the zoning and a little bit of the recent history.
Thank you very much. The next thing, announcements and other business. The next meeting is May 18th here at 2:30. Do we have any citizens who wish to speak? Oh, I knew you were going to do that.
I've been sitting there for hours.
I know they are. That's why I'm
Citizens
wondering.
were not
I don't know. You just like being here.
ex-councilmen.
Yes.
Edward Baum, 20 Sunnyside Drive. I was wondering if the Planning Commission could enlighten us as to the progress on the comprehensive plan and perhaps a timetable to get at least to the public hearing point.
Melissa has given haven't you? You got the
Yeah,
copy?
we've
She's got
got
the
the-
copy. And Peg has, reading it? Are you reading it?
I will as soon as I get home.
Get home.
It's a
Just got
matter,
back in the-
I think I told you this once, but not in an official meeting. We took when the people on the committee, we were the only two who were on the commission, the steering committee, because Wayne was not there, and so the rest of them had to read it, and reading it, it was, although it appeared in the newspaper that the picky person only was picky at style, picky person was not only picking at style, the picky person was picking at outright mistakes. All right. Plus, in reading, and I think some of the other members found that it was almost impossible to follow. And so what we did, we started going through it all, and instead of changing it all, what we really did was rearrange it. So that the first phase, actually, chapter 13 was the meat of the whole thing. So we removed that as phase 1, part 1 of the whole thing. Took everything that, all the discussion, everything that everybody said, and that goes in appendix 1. Then that was the plan, and then the second part of this, presented to us by the consultants, was actually what action should be taken, or recommended action.
implementations.
Implementation, and so we made that as part 2, is called the implementation, and took out of that, unfortunately, when that was given to us, there were a great many sections of that went through that had page after page after page of sample ordinances. We removed all of the sample ordinances, put it in appendix 2. We didn't throw them away, we just said, see appendix 2. And then and Peg worked very hard at doing this, we put all the topics in the first phase and all the topics in the second phase as closely as possible in the same order. So if you were going to be discussing uptown in the first phase, in the second phase, it would be in the same order. You would go through it, and then are doing a pretty, it's not indexed, but the table of contents, so that you could find your way through it. And we think it's going to be more user-friendly. Unfortunately, it has been a nightmare to get it to work. And trying to use, I don't know what system it's on, and it wasn't as easy as it seemed to be in the first place. You thought, oh, well, we've got this disk, we've got this, and we'll just do all these things. It hasn't worked out that way. So Melissa deserves a medal, a halo to wear around.
A gold keyboard for
a
a
gold
computer.
keyboard or something. And it's been constantly going through, and I think it will be. It will be a better thing. It will certainly be usable. I don't think in the form that we got it was it usable, except for somebody who's sort of fanatical about going through things.
Do you have a goal of June, July, August, September,
Let's see.
something?
Well, look at it this way. We've proofread, and we're ready to make the final corrections on part 1. I've got the revision of part 2 to proofread. and then I'll give it back to Melissa, and then we just have to do the 2 tables of contents to make the pages, page numbers coincide.
And I,
Couple of months?
yeah, I think the appendices, although important, are not important as far as the city council and people considering it. I mean, those things are they're valuable in how they arrived at that, but those 2 things are not absolutely necessary for you to pick up and read that and know what's going on. You don't need all those sample ordinances, because, I mean, they're there in the future, but to consider the
We're not going to
implementation.
proofread this, are we?
No, they're going to go straight
Just
through
straight through.
the way they are. There's going to have to be some headings to make a match, but those would just be added in at the top. But we're not going through that, and unless there's some glaring error really that leaped out at us a long time ago. But we're not going through and saying this is not a good form. That's we like this, an ordinance like this better. None of that. That's just. It just made it so cumbersome to handle that this didn't make any sense. I think you'll find that you like this form. Well, you were in the one meeting with us, but 2 meetings, but it took a little work to do it.
But I would, if the proofreading goes well and, everything else, it could be next month that we'd have the public hearing. If it doesn't go well, it might be late next month, I mean, it's going to be one of the
Just was getting sort of a sense.
We're pretty close.
I'll probably make the comment when we finally have it to the city council, but it's been close to 5 1/3 years since we've been working on this.
Well, remember that it didn't even come to the planning
I know,
commission
I mean, it's
till
not just,
last
it's a
June.
whole process.
Yeah.
They say you're supposed to revise it every 5 years. Well, we're
Well,
ready
we
to revise it.
changed,
We
the
haven't
one
even
thing we
adopted it
did
yet.
change,
Well, let council do
it's not vision for year
2020.
2020. We changed it to 2025.
Very wise. Thank you.
That's the big change we made. Does anybody else have a citizen wish to speak? Are you a citizen?
Yep.
Of the plane.
You have the planes, I don't know.
We're actually not the Plains.
Did you wish to?
Just
no, that's-
outside.
Your address is actually Athens.
I have an
there,
Athens
isn't it?
address.
So,
I do. I'd like to ask that at the next meeting, the rezoning request for Landmark be placed on the agenda. I don't really see any reason or any other further discussion unless you want to discuss it some more. The rezoning language says that after a public hearing, the Planning Commission has 60 days to make a recommendation to council. So you do have 2 months to work on it. That's a situation where, unlike Herald Square, I think it's fairly obvious that if the landmark project goes or not, that landmark
Whether it
site
does.
should be zoned R3.
does it-
Right.
Well, that was part of, when we tried to change all the M's before, that was one, whether we actually discussed it, it was one that we considered, because it's
Right.
just stuck back there in the middle, and so.
It seems every time we go out to do some kind of overall rezonings, it's always met with opposition for those who would have grandfathered legal nonconforming uses in those zones. So it seems easier to kind of pick them off
Yeah.
as redevelopment comes along. It's less controversial that way.
Well, we
And
weren't
then
very
there's more
successful the other way.
Right. So just to let you know, you do have 60 days to act on that, but the 60-day clock started running last week.
Well, I personally have no objection to doing it at the next meeting.
No, just put it
Yeah,
on.
let's-
Put it
Yeah,
on the
because
agenda.
we wanted to do it before, and it wasn't done, and so this is just a good time to do it. Okay, minutes, do we have minutes? Where are my minutes?
Yeah,
I've lost
we
my
do.
minutes. Was I here? No, I
No,
wasn't
you
here.
weren't here.
I wasn't here. I
Just
thought
3
I
of us.
missed it.
I move approval of minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Now, guess where we are?
I move adjourned.
All in favor, say aye. You don't have to have a second
Aye.
adjournment. I think we're all in favor. It is 7 minutes after 4. That was.
Oh, it's better than I thought.
The other clock says 6.